Lawmakers are asking a lot of questions on Capitol Hill today, and some of those center around the release of the Epstein files. And I want to tell you where we stand with this situation, because lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have had questions about how the Department of Justice has released the Epstein files. An administration official actually testified on Capitol Hill about why he's mentioned in these documents, and that would be Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. He defended himself in a Senate hearing yesterday where he downplayed his ties to Jeffrey Epstein after a revelation showed there in the files that he had had at least 2 meetings with him after Epstein's 2008 conviction on prostitution charges. And Lutnick had said in that hearing that they had lunch on the island, and for about an hour that was true. But his testimony comes a day after Epstein's associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, repeatedly pled the fifth.
Hey guys, Caleb Miller here. All right, buckle up. Pam Bondi just got slammed with a nightmare ruling that could straight up end her run as Attorney General. A federal judge dropped a bombshell decision today that basically accuses Bondi of turning the Department of Justice into Donald Trump's personal legal hit squad. We're talking ignoring federal law, steamrolling congressional oversight, and abusing her power in ways the court is calling flat out unacceptable. This isn't some minor slap on the wrist. This is devastating. Here's the raw truth. Judge Amy Berman Jackson, a no-nonsense federal judge.
You showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're going to answer the
theatrics are
question the way I
ridiculous.
asked it.
Chairman Jordan, I'm not going to get in the gutter with these people, but I'm going to answer the question.
How many have you indicted?
Again, the time belongs to
Reclaiming my time.
The time belongs.
I think it's very interesting.
Reclaiming my time.
I think it's very interesting.
And you can
When
reclaim
he
your
talks
time.
about they
Reclaiming my time,
indicted,
Mr.
the
Chairman.
president said they
Close the
indicted
clock.
him twice.
Mr. Chairman, please
They
stop the
sure
clock
did.
and stop the
he
clock and
indicted.
restore his time.
Okay, here we go with these
Committee will be in order.
theatrics.
The
Reclaiming
time
my
belongs
time
to the
and
gentleman
reel back
from
the
New
clock,
York.
please.
We will give you a few more seconds. We will do that. But when
Reclaiming
you ask
my-
a question, the witness
question
gets to
was-
answer. You may not like the answer, but she
Right.
gets to
The
answer.
question was, how many of Epstein's...
They don't like
Que-
the answer,
Reclaiming
Chairman,
my time.
because it's honest.
Reclaiming
So
my-
he asked a
Reclaiming my
4-minute
time.
question.
Restore 45
and
seconds,
I
Mr.
am
Nadler,
going
please,
to
Mr. Chairman.
answer.
Nonsense federal judge right here in Washington, D.C. just shredded Bondi's entire legal defense in a high-stakes case over the release of sensitive documents. The core issue is dead simple. Bondi's DOJ has been flat out refusing to hand over documents that Congress legally demanded, hiding behind executive privilege and deliberative process claims like they're some magic shield. But Judge Jackson wasn't having it. She reviewed those documents in private, in camera, and compared them to what Bondi was claiming. What she found, Bondi's privilege arguments were bogus. She was abusing those protections to bury information that should have been public months ago. The judge's language is brutal. She wrote that Bondi's DOJ has engaged in a pattern of conduct that completely destroys the presumption of government honesty, the very trust courts usually give federal agencies. And it gets worse. This ruling isn't just about the documents. Judge Jackson went straight for Bondi's throat, highlighting repeated false representations to courts, ignored judicial orders, and treating court commands like they're optional suggestions. She laid out a crystal clear record that raises serious questions about whether Pam Bondi is even fit to serve as Attorney General. The fallout is already exploding. Multiple lawmakers are citing this ruling as hard evidence she's unfit, and the calls for her immediate removal are getting louder by the hour. This is huge, guys. Stay tuned. This nightmare is just getting started. And the ruling is so devastating that it's already triggering calls for her immediate removal. Here's what happened next. Guys, this gets even uglier.
They don't like the answer, Chairman. You don't tell me.
Yeah, oh, I
anything,
did tell you because we saw what you did in the
loser
Senate.
Lawyer, not even a lawyer. They sure did. They tried to impeach him twice, and you, Mr. Nadler, were one of the leads on the impeachment. I was on the other side. I lived that with you. Have you apologized?
She didn't stop there. She doubled down hard, dragging up the old impeachment fights to deflect from the real questions about Epstein.
First, he brought up the president saying they indicted me twice. They sure did. They tried to impeach him twice. And you, Mr. Nadler, were one of the leads on the impeachment. I was on the other side. I lived that with you. During impeachment, you said the president conspired, sought foreign interference in the 2016 election. Robert Mueller found no evidence, none, of foreign interference in 2016. Have you apologized to President Trump? Have you apologized to President Trump, all of you who participated in those impeachment hearings against Donald Trump? You all should be apologizing. You sit here and you attack the president, and I am not going to have it. I'm not going to put up with it. You know, all they want to do, the American people need to know this. They are talking about Epstein today. This has been around since the Obama administration. This administration released over 3 million pages of documents, over 3 million. And Donald Trump signed that law to release all of those documents. He is the most transparent president in the nation's history. And none of them asked Merrick Garland over the last 4 years one word about Jeffrey Epstein. How ironic is that? You know why? Because Donald Trump, the Dow right now is over.
The timing couldn't be worse for Pam Bondi. She's already under a microscope for the Epstein files cover-up scandal. She's been caught red-handed, lying to Congress about releasing those documents, stonewalling for months, and now a federal judge has piled on with her own brutal documented findings. It's like watching the walls close in. Let's dig into what Judge Jackson actually uncovered, because this isn't just a legal disagreement, it's a full-on credibility implosion. The case centered on documents Congress had subpoenaed from the DOJ materials tied to ongoing investigations that lawmakers had every right to see. Bondi's department trotted out the usual excuses: executive privilege, deliberative process protection. Sounds standard, right? Except Judge Jackson didn't take their word for it. She reviewed the documents in camera, meaning she looked at every page privately to test Bondi's claims herself. And what she saw shredded those claims. The documents weren't some ultra-sensitive internal deliberations or national security secrets. They were routine communications, basic stuff that should have been handed over months earlier. The judge called it straight. Bondi's DOJ was using privilege claims as nothing more than a blatant delay tactic, not a legitimate legal defense, but a stall game to keep embarrassing information buried. Then Judge Jackson went further, and this is where it gets really devastating. She pointed out this wasn't a one-off mistake. She cited multiple instances where Bondi's DOJ had made representations to courts that later turned out to be inaccurate or outright misleading. She highlighted cases where the department ignored judicial orders or dragged its feet on compliance so badly it looked intentional. Her conclusion hit like a freight train. This pattern of conduct destroys the presumption of government honesty that courts normally afford to federal agencies. Think about that for a second. Courts usually give the DOJ the benefit of the doubt. Prosecutors are supposed to be the honest brokers of justice, the good guys everyone trusts. But Judge Jackson is saying Pam Bondi's Department of Justice has lied and misled so many times that they've lost that trust forever. The presumption is gone. Poof. That's not just a legal slap on the wrist. That's a formal, on-the-record finding of systemic misconduct. And when a federal judge puts something that explosive in writing, it becomes ammunition. Congress can use it. Other courts can use it. Future prosecutors can use it. It's evidence that Pam Bondi isn't just wrong. She's untrustworthy at the highest level of law enforcement. The political fallout is already exploding. Democrats in the House are waving this ruling like a smoking gun, screaming that this is textbook impeachable conduct. Even some Republicans are starting to squirm. They don't want to be caught defending an attorney general who's been publicly humiliated by a federal judge for dishonesty. Bondi's scrambling with the usual playbook, calling the judge biased, claiming political motivation, labeling it another activist attack on the Trump administration. But good luck selling that when the ruling is built on documents the judge personally reviewed. You can't cry bias when the evidence was staring her in the face. This is the kind of hit that keeps on hurting, guys. And it's only the beginning of Bondi's nightmare. But here's where this connects to Bondi's removal and why this ruling is turning into a full-blown catastrophe for her. When a federal judge declares that an agency has destroyed the presumption of government honesty, that's not just harsh words on paper. That's a formal courtroom finding of misconduct that gets etched into the permanent record. It becomes real evidence, evidence that Congress can wave around, that other judges can cite, that impeachment committees can build entire cases on. And right now, that's exactly what's happening. The nightmare gets even more personal when you look at how this judicial smackdown is feeding directly into the congressional grilling Bondi is already facing. Just listen to this brutal exchange from a recent House hearing. Democrats are using every second of their time to hammer her on the Epstein files cover-up, and it's laying the perfect groundwork for the fallout from Judge Jackson's ruling.
You have been the Attorney General for a whole year, and your DOJ fired the lead prosecutor of this case, sat on evidence this entire time, and claimed falsely last July that there were no more leads. It took an act of Congress for you to finally release part of the Epstein files, and when you did, you included personal information about the victims while protecting the names of abusers.
Time of the gentleman
None
has
of the perpetrators
expired.
have been brought to justice, but enormous resources
Time
are
of the
dedicated
gentleman
to
has
pursuing Trump's
expired,
enemies.
and
It's
obviously
clear
there
that
was-
under your leadership, the Department of Justice
There
no
was
longer
no
works
question
for
in
American
there.
people. It works
Order
for
respond
Donald
to.
Trump. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.
May I answer?
I think our next questioner, Madam Attorney General, is going to give you time to respond to
Thank you, Chairman.
all kinds of things. So we will turn to the gentleman from Texas for 5 minutes.
Ms. Bondi, you go right ahead. I'm over here.
See that? A congressman straight up accusing Bondi of sitting on evidence, firing prosecutors, lying about leads being exhausted, and then botching the partial release so badly that victims get exposed while the powerful abusers stay hidden. This isn't random griping. This is the exact kind of conduct Judge Jackson just documented in her ruling. Misleading statements, stonewalling, abusing power to protect the wrong people. The judge's findings aren't happening in a vacuum. They're landing right in the middle of these explosive hearings, giving Democrats rocket fuel to demand accountability. If the Attorney General of the United States can't be trusted by the federal courts anymore, how the hell is she supposed to lead the Department of Justice? Prosecutors live and die by credibility. Juries need to believe them. Judges need to trust their word. Once that trust is shattered, like Judge Jackson just shattered it, Bondi becomes useless in that job. She's not just fighting one case. She's fighting a reputation that's been torched in open court. The political fallout is hitting hard and fast. Democrats in the House are already seizing on this ruling like it's Christmas morning. They're shouting from the rooftops, look, a federal judge has found that Pam Bondi misled courts, abused her power, and engaged in a pattern of dishonesty. That's impeachable. We have the receipts. Let's act. And here's the kicker. Even some Republicans are starting to sweat. Nobody wants to go on cable news defending an attorney general who's been publicly humiliated by a sitting federal judge for lying and stonewalling. The optics are poison. Bondi's scrambling to respond, trotting out the tired Trump-era defense. Judge Jackson is biased. The ruling is politically motivated. It's just another activist judge trying to sabotage the administration. But that line falls flat when the judge's opinion is built on documents she personally reviewed in camera. You can't scream bias when the evidence was sitting right in front of her and she called it exactly what it was, bogus privilege claims used as a delay tactic. The facts are in black and white, and they're brutal. And there's another layer that's absolutely terrifying for Bondi. This ruling isn't locked away in some dusty court file. It's public. It's detailed. It names specific instances where her DOJ misled courts, ignored orders, and played games with the truth. That means every single federal judge who handles a case involving Bondi's DOJ from here on out is going to see this opinion first thing. They're going to know a colleague already found this department untrustworthy. So what happens next? Every motion she files gets extra scrutiny. Every representation her lawyers make gets doubted. Every request for a stay or extension gets met with raised eyebrows. She's walking into courtrooms across the country with a giant red flag over her head saying, don't trust these people. This isn't a one and done hit. This is structural damage. Bondi is now fighting an uphill battle in every legal arena because one judge already said the quiet part out loud. Her DOJ can't be trusted anymore. And when that kind of judicial rebuke spreads, it doesn't fade, it festers. Guys, this is the kind of moment that changes everything. The nightmare ruling from Judge Jackson isn't just hurting Bondi, it's crippling her ability to function as Attorney General. And when the top law enforcement officer in the country loses the court's trust, the entire system starts to wobble. The calls for removal are getting louder, the evidence is stacking higher, and Pam Bondi is running out of runway fast. So let's break down what this ruling actually means for Pam Bondi's future and why it's looking more and more like the beginning of the end for her. This isn't just another courtroom setback. This is a cascade of consequences that's hitting her from every angle. First, it's a massive credibility-shattering blow. Bondi was already on the ropes over the Epstein files, cover up, caught lying to Congress about releasing documents, facing contempt threats from lawmakers who were furious about the stonewalling. Now Judge Jackson has added her own devastating judicial finding. Bondi's DOJ engages in misleading conduct as a pattern, not a one-off. That's three massive fronts where her honesty is being publicly demolished. When your integrity as Attorney General is questioned from Congress, the media, and now the federal bench, you can't do the job anymore. Prosecutors need trust. Courts need to believe them. Juries need to buy their arguments. Bondi has lost that foundation. And once it's gone, she's effectively neutralized, no matter how loyal she is to Trump. Second, this ruling supercharges the case for impeachment. Before Judge Jackson's decision, impeachment talk was mostly political noise accusations without hard proof. Now they've got a federal judge's formal opinion saying Bondi's conduct destroys the presumption of government honesty. That's gold standard evidence. It's on the record, it's detailed, it's from a respected judge who reviewed the documents herself. Defenders can't wave it away as just politics when a court has documented the lies, the delays, and the abuse of privilege. Democrats are already renewing calls. This is impeachable, misleading courts, abusing power, eroding trust in justice itself. Even some Republicans are getting uneasy. Defending her means defending a DOJ that federal judges say can't be trusted. Third, this creates real personal legal jeopardy for Bondi. Making false representations to federal courts isn't just sloppy, it's potentially criminal. False statements to judges can trigger sanctions, contempt findings, professional discipline from bar associations, even criminal charges if prosecutors decide to pursue the pattern Judge Jackson identified. She didn't slap Bondi with those penalties in this ruling, but she laid the groundwork wide open. Other courts could pick it up. Ethics complaints could follow. Her law license could be at risk. When the top law enforcement officer faces that kind of exposure, it's not theoretical, it's a ticking bomb. Fourth, the damage spills over to the entire Trump administration. Pam Bondi is Trump's handpicked attorney general, his top cop, his legal shield. If she's seen as dishonest, untrustworthy, and rebuked by federal judges for systemic misconduct, it makes the whole White House look corrupt and lawless. Voters hate that. This becomes a killer issue in the 2026 midterms. Do you want an administration that courts say lies and cheats? The narrative sticks, and it hurts Republicans up and down the ballot. Trump might keep her around for loyalty. She's ride or die. But loyalty has limits when your AG becomes a walking liability, dragging the brand into the mud. Fifth, this ruling turbocharges congressional oversight. Congress has been battling Bondi for months over documents, testimony, subpoenas. She stonewalled, claimed privilege, delayed everything. But Judge Jackson just ruled those privilege claims are often bogus delay tactics, not real protections. That gives lawmakers massive new ammunition. They can demand even more documents, hold her in contempt when she refuses, and push harder hearings. Bondi's entire strategy for dodging oversight just got gutted by a federal judge. Oversight committees are salivating. This is open season. And here's the really scary part for Bondi. Judge Jackson isn't some isolated outlier. Other federal judges have piled on with similar harsh rebukes. Judge Paula Schinney said the DOJ destroyed the presumption of regularity. Judge Zia Faroukwi declared blind deference is over. Trust but verify is the new rule. Multiple courts across different cases are saying the same thing. Bondi's DOJ can't be trusted anymore. This isn't coincidence. It's a pattern. When that many judges reach the same conclusion, it's systemic failure, not bad luck. So where does this leave Pam Bondi? In an impossible spot. Every day she stays in office, more damage piles up, more rulings, more evidence of misconduct, more erosion of trust. Her defenders in the White House might stick by her for a while because she's loyal, but loyalty only goes so far when you're sinking the ship. If she becomes the symbol of corruption and dishonesty, Trump might cut bait to save himself politically. And if that happens, she's finished no party support, no judicial credibility, no future. This nightmare ruling from Judge Jackson might just be the spark that ends Pam Bondi's tenure. It's a judicial declaration that she's untrustworthy, that she abuses power, that she misleads courts, and those findings will haunt her forever. In every hearing, every case, every public moment, people will point back to this opinion and say, a federal judge said so. That's a reputation you don't recover from. Guys, this is explosive. The walls are closing in fast. This isn't just about one attorney general. It's a massive hit to the entire Trump administration. When your top law enforcement officer gets publicly demolished by the courts for dishonesty, the whole White House starts looking corrupt and lawless. The midterms are coming, and voters remember scandals like this. Bondi might cling on for loyalty's sake, but loyalty only stretches so far when you're becoming a walking liability. The calls for her removal are exploding. Impeachment talk is turning into real momentum. More judges are piling on. More evidence is surfacing. Pam Bondi is in the fight of her political life, and she's losing ground fast. This could be the beginning of the end. Stay locked in. Guys, this story is far from over. What do you think? Will Bondi survive this nightmare, or is she done? Smash that like button if you believe she should be removed. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and share this video with anyone who needs to see the truth about Trump's DOJ. Hit subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the next update. These scandals are heating up fast.